Greetings, welcome to the channel. I'm EddieSetGo, and this is the R7. Second gear, bring it round. Yeah, low. Oh, that's good. Got a tight corner here. We're going to try and power out this corner a bit. Put the power down. Engaging that quick shifter. A pure thoroughbred sports bike, but with a forgiving edge to it. Tight corner, tight corner. So here we have the brand new R7 for 2022. Yamaha have done such a smart move by taking their biggest selling MT motorcycle, the MT-07, and using it as the inspiration for this new sports bike. Taking the much loved Crossplane 2 engine, which is found in the MT-07 and the Tracer 700, a very gutsy, playful, but also forgiving power plant, and transplanting it into this wonderful, focused sports bike chassis. Peak power is 72 brake horsepower at about 9,000 RPM. Peak torque is 68 Newton meters of torque at about 6,000 to 7,000 RPM. Now you might be thinking that's quite a modest amount of power, especially compared to some of the other bikes in the class. But that's the concept with the R7. Yamaha have designed the bike so as a rider you can use every single one of those 72 horses and do it in a comfortable, controlled and fun way. The seat is high by comparison to the MT-07, the bars are low, the chassis has been firmed up by Yamaha as well. There's also fully adjustable KYB upside down front forks and an adjustable rear shock for everything but compression. Dual 4-point Nissan calipers at the front, a single Nissan caliper at the rear. In terms of equipment, and this is a stripped back, lean sports bike, so there's no traction control. And I know what you're thinking, oh my god, no traction control, but do you really need it? 72 brake horsepower? You don't really need it, especially on a soft, playful twin like the CP2. There's also no riding mode, so you don't have to be worried about switching modes to adapt to the weather conditions or the riding conditions. This is a one-size-fits-all engine power plant setup. Elsewhere around the R7 we've got LED lighting all round, including daytime running lights and a projector headlamp which is positioned inside at the centre of the air intake at the front. This is a lean, stripped-back motorcycle inspired by the MT-07, creating this new, exciting two-cylinder R-Series sports bike. But the questions are, is it powerful enough? What's it like to ride? Let's jump into the review. So, quick ergonomics check then. I'm on board the R7. The seat height on the R7 is 835 millimeters. So at 5'7", 5'8" tall, I can get both feet comfortably down on the floor. And the bike only weighs in wet at about 188 kilos. So this is a very narrow profiled sports bike, very lightweight, and the seat height is quite manageable. So now for those of you thinking that the R7 is a soft sports bike, and I might use that term a little bit in the review, just swing your leg over one of these machines and you'll realise how quickly this is a thoroughbred sports bike. There's nothing quite soft about it. The seat is quite firm, your butt is in the air, and as you'll see when I lean forward to these clip-ons here, you're in a very racy, sporty position. That's a very familiar sound to me. I've ridden the MT-07 last year. I put 12,000 miles on my Tracer 700. Both of them use this wonderful CP2 engine, but I'm so excited to try that engine in this platform. Let's go. Just using the very practical mirrors. These mirrors on the R7 are extremely practical. Loads of visibility there. Just a quick shoulder check as well. And away we go, on board the 2022 Yamaha R7, a bike which seems to be gaining a cult status by the day. People are intrigued and excited about this machine, and I'm so fortunate and thankful to have gotten hold of one for the weekend
just to try. So huge thanks and a big nod to Yamaha UK for giving me this opportunity. So thank you very much. Oh, this is so exciting. Reason behind my excitement, one of my first big bikes I ever bought, my first big kind of motorcycle was an R6, a 2004 Yamaha R6, and it will forever be known to me as the one that got away. The bike I sold, and literally the day later I thought, why did I sell that bike? Why did I get rid of that bike? So the moment that Yamaha announced the R7, my ears certainly pricked up. I was very intrigued. I'm in the wrong lane here. Let's just quickly cut across. There we go, nice and safely. Yes, the handlebars, you are very much in a sporty perched position. And so yes, if you do consider this bike a soft one, swing your leg over and just feel how extreme this feels. It's great, fantastic, and it's so slim and narrow and just tidy. Oh, what a cool bike. Looking ahead, we've got an LCD dash in front of us. It's all very clear and crisp. Everything's laid out in a very logical manner. I can see which gear I'm in. You've got this big revometer kind of climbing, sweeping across the display. A huge speedo there, a fuel gauge and an odometer and a clock. It is all very simple and essential information that you need to glance down and see what's going on with the bike. In terms of equipment on the bike, the bike, this one I'm riding, comes with the factory option quick shifter. So that is a factory option quick shifter. I think you can get it installed for all of 130 odd pounds from your Yamaha dealership, which I think is a no-brainer for such a, it's such a useful convenience to have. And it is just upshifts only, so you will have to manually downshift, use the clutch, blip the throttle. But for me, that's parts. I do that anyway. Even with my MT-09 SP that has an up and down quick shifter, I still blip the throttle and just kind of do it manually coming down, just because I like to hear the engine and play around with the bike. It's just a habit of mine. And other than that, this is the beauty of the R7 for me. Other than that, it's pretty much it. In terms of equipment on the bike, it is absolutely straightforward and simple and to the point. There's no traction control, and I know what you're saying, oh my god, no traction control, but no, there's no traction control. I will get to the engine shortly, because that is the jewel in this bike. I'll get to the engine shortly, but yes, there's no traction control. The power delivery on the bike and everything, don't think it really warrants it. I don't think it needs it. And in terms of riding modes and all those other electronic aids that you're so used to seeing now on bikes coming out, my MT-09 SP has lean sensitive rider aids and riding modes and all of that shebang. But the R7, no, it's a straight up twist the throttle and go. You don't have to worry about what mode you're in. You don't have to worry about if traction control is switched on and off. It is simply jump on and go, and you can focus on the road and focus on the riding. I keep looking down at the cockpit area as we're just cruising along here, and you've got all these lovely little cutouts in the head here. We've got these gold accents on these adjustable KYB forks. So obviously, compared to the MT-07, where this bike kind of gets its DNA from, the R7 comes with the adjustable KYBs, and these are also upside down forks, which you don't get on the MT-07. So the ride quality should be plusher, it should be firmer, but we're going to put it through its paces shortly and find out for sure. The rear shock at the back is adjustable all the way through, apart from compression. So you've got a lot of adjustability here on the R7. So for the track enthusiasts out there, you can make some modifications and some setup changes to suit your riding needs. Compared to the MT-07, the frame on the R7 is apparently a lot stiffer. And having ridden it just a few miles to work and taking the bike home from delivery, it does feel a firmer bike compared to the MT. I loved riding the MT last year. It was bouncy, it was fun. I could feel the chassis moving around. But this R7 feels a lot firmer, much more sportier. I'm certainly not bouncing around, but I'm going over some quite bumpy country roads at the moment, and things are nice and plush. So just while we're talking about the equipment, I'll mention the exhaust. We're cruising along in 5th gear, about 3,000 RPM, and the stock exhaust on the R7 is rather quiet. It's the same as it was on my MT-07 Tracer and on the MT-07 as well. It's a slightly subdued sound coming from the exhaust, especially at low revs. When you start to push things, you start to hear that groan, that grumble, that rumble from the CP2 engine. But for me personally, if I was going to own this bike or have it for a long term, I would consider perhaps getting an aftermarket end can, just to make people aware perhaps that I'm coming. I did fit an Arrow exhaust system on my old Tracer 700, and I felt a little bit more confident going through busy traffic and commuting in the mornings. I felt people could hear me more. Let's bring this around here. Oh, this is fun. This is super fun. Oh, this is great. I thought I was having fun on the CBR 650R with the kind of the drop bars and all that, but no, these are even more dropped. And just leaning over and, oh yeah, just getting right this corner here. Oh! I missed my gear and everything there, I don't care. That was great. Just pulling the throttle there, you can just feel that torque coming in. So this brings us to obviously the jewel in the crown of the R7 for me, and that is that wonderful CP2 engine. And I was just coming out of that corner just then, just winding the throttle on. You know, there's no traction control lights flashing at me. The power delivery, the torque curve on this bike is as straight as a dice. So there's no unexpected jolts or peaks in torque to catch you unawares, which really makes this bike awesome for new and returning riders. If you're a new rider looking for your first big sports bike, and this is a very predictable, safe option. Oh, that's a good little wiggle. This is a really safe and predictable power delivery, but there's plenty of it. I mean, in terms of power outputs, the R7 puts out about 72 brake horsepower, and you might, some of you might, tut at that thinking, oh, only 72, but trust me, you can use all of those 72s on this bike. Oh, that's good. Peak power is delivered about 8,000 to 9,000 RPM, and I say peak torque, 68 Newton meters of torque, available at about 7,000 RPM. Usually when you hit 5,000 RPM, things start to really pick up. And this bike just confidently pulls you. The torque on this from the CP2 engine is awesome. Hear that engine winding down. Yeah, that's the only thing I would do is put an aftermarket exhaust on here. I'll put like an Aquapovic or something on this, just to make it grumble a bit deeper. But yeah, the CP2 engine, it is a gem. I've ridden the MT-07, I've ridden my Tracer 700, 12,000 miles on my Tracer. It's and it never protested. Even when I was pushing it, even when I was really throwing everything at that bike, even on a racetrack, I took out a track day. Got hustled into the intermediate group. Not by my intentions, I got hustled into the intermediate group, and I got a few nods of appreciation in the pit lane from that CP2 engine on the Tracer, and it's all familiar to me. That sound, the power delivery, it feels very familiar. But what doesn't feel familiar though is this wonderful riding setup. Oh, it's just great. I'm so happy to be on this bike. It feels like I'm coming back to an old friend. But an old friend that's kind of, I don't know, been on holiday and gone to the gym or something. It's got this different engine, it's got this different voice. The good thing about the CP2 is it has plenty of power and torque for everyday riding. But it's quite a forgiving engine at the same time. Compare this to my R6 from yesteryear. The R6 was very on a knife edge. It was quite razor sharp, and so you had to be quite delicate with the throttle, especially coming out of corners. But with the R7, you've got a really nice, predictable and forgiving engine and power delivery beneath you. Nestled inside this very nimble, lightweight, honed R7 chassis. Using that rear brake a little bit, nice bit of bite on that rear. But there's plenty of oomph coming from that engine. But it's the chassis, it's just oh, this is great. This is fantastic. And at the moment, I can say for this, the front end, these These KYBs are super plush. It's quite a firm bike when you sit on it, especially the seat. The seat is a little bit firm. Yeah, this is really where this bike excels. These wonderful country roads. Just bringing it round. Put the power down. And then we've got a sharp left here, which is very sharp and full of dirt, so we've all got to be really careful. Lots of progressive bite on those brakes. And then out. Just pull the throttle, pin it wide open. Oh, it's great. You don't have to worry about it. The R7 comes with a 13-litre fuel tank, so in theory, and based on previous experience, you should get about 140, 150 miles worth of range. Just pulling away there, just coming away from, you know, a standing start. When I'm riding more powerful machines, there's always a bit of a, you know, an edginess, a snappiness to the delivery. You just feel an edge to those big powerful machines, don't you? But there's a nice little kind of softness to that initial twist of the throttle. And so, you know, maneuvering in tight spaces, parking up, you know, getting into the supermarket or the store, making U-turns, all that kind of stuff. It just makes it easier to ride, to manage. So despite being quite a focused sports bike, there are little airs of practicality to this machine, including the turning circle, which I'll illustrate shortly. Let's see if we can just quickly overtake this quick lane here. Let's go around. And away we go. Yes, this fairing, this R7 fairing is very effective. It's easy to go quickly on this bike. You have to keep an eye on the speedo. Oh, that's great. Yeah, the engine itself compared to the MT, let's get around this corner. Oh, tight it low up. Just gun the throttle. There you go. Quick shifter engaging. Oh, that's good. Yeah, the engine on the MT, the engine on the R7 obviously derives from the MT-07 with a few subtle changes to fuel injection, air intake ducts. There's also a different ECU on the R7 and changes to the gear ratios as well, which means that the R7, despite the power and everything being quite familiar, the top speed on the R7, you should be able to reach the dizzy heights of about 130, 140 miles an hour, which obviously you can't do on the roads, which is why this bike, you know, this bike really should go on a racetrack for some fun, shouldn't it? You know, you can't, even though the horsepower and everything of this bike can be easily exploited and used on the open road, this bike has plenty of potential to turn a few heads and perhaps embarrass some bigger sports bikes on a racetrack for sure. I don't think you're going to have the top end like on my Tracer 700 going down the Dunlop straight at Donington Park. You know, people would fly past me, but I had fun in the corners, and once in a while you'd overtake someone and they'd be like, who? What? What's going on here? But with this bike I think you could do it even easier. This light, nimble, firm chassis. One thing I like to comment on is compared to the inline 4 of the CBR 650R, I found that quite vibey. There was a lot of vibration throughout the rev range really, and quite often my right hand and my boots would get vibey and I would feel a bit of numbness. I'm feeling a tiny bit of it, but nowhere near the levels that I was having on the Honda. So that's a good win for me, you know, in terms of vibrations and everything. I also like the fact that these the throttle grips, literally what I'm gripping onto here, the throttle grips are a nice rubbery compound, where on some more, you know, mid-range, mid-price point machines, they can use that plasticky kind of finish, which is fine, but these have got nice tacky rubber, which is really good on the hands. Second gear, bring it round. Yeah, low. Oh, that's good. Got a tight corner here. We're going to try and power out this corner a bit. Get the power down. Engaging that quick shifter. Oh, this is great. down in just a second, let that CP2 spin up. Bringing it around this corner here. Bit of rear brake there. Whoa. That is super wholesome fun. But it's not, it's fun, but it's not, and it's exciting, it's exhilarating, but it's not delivered in a way that's going to make you, you know, have a trouser accident, you know. Let's just illustrate the practicality of this by doing a quick U-turn. Let's just quickly turn on the R7. Oh, look at that, that turning circle, that's really good. Just have a quick walk around the R7. Look at that, isn't that a stunning bike? And all yours for £8,200. I've not mentioned the price, but yes, £8,200. It puts it a couple of £100 cheaper than the CBR 650R from Honda. Puts it a couple of grand, £2,000 cheaper than the Aprilia RS 660. Of course, the Aprilia's got all the bells and whistles, your lean sensitive rider aids, TFT dash, and up and down quick shifter, and all of those goodies. But you know, for this kind of bike, you really need all that, and that's what the principle is behind the R7. Stripping it back, a pure thoroughbred sports bike, but with a forgiving edge to it. So even though this is just a quick first ride, I'm getting such a good taste for the flavour of the R7. It's really giving me a good insight, just winding through these country roads, nipping around the corners, tucking under the bubble and then hitting the brakes as we're going into those corners and just having fun, which again is what motorcycling should all be about, shouldn't it? It's not always about, you know, absolutely scaring the pants off yourself. I mean, sometimes it's good to do that, isn't it? You know, it's a bit of fun, but, you know, every day you want to ride, you want to enjoy the bike, you want to enjoy the road, and the R7 manages to deliver that with this very firm, very sharp chassis, this wonderful sporty focus that it has, combined with this eager, full of character and forgiving CP2 engine that pretty much anyone can jump on and exploit. Very bumpy corner. Oh, that's good. The R7 is a corner hunter, looking for the next corner. A bit of rear brake there, just to sure it up. Nice tight circle there. And hip hop flick on that quick shifter. Up the gearbox we go. And then left. And then right again. I've only been riding it for, like I say, a few hours. And I can tell you I'm hooked. I'm hooked. It reminds me of my R6, but it just has a different character. It's got that playful NTO7 character to it, whilst being much sharper, much firmer, all sportier. Looking left and right, carving up these corners. Like I said, the R7 is a corner hunter. This thing will just look for the next bend and aim for it. This is wonderful. The R7, to sum up really, the R7, it is a proper sports bike. If you have any illusion that this is a soft sports bike, yes, in terms of power delivery, the power delivery is eager and it's forgiving, but the bike itself, you know, the chassis, you swing your leg over this thing and instantly you realise just how focused this bike is. The seat height is rather high compared to some of its competitors, like the CBR 650R has quite a low seat height by comparison at 810 millimeters. 835, with the bars are low, you're hunched over, this wonderful slim profile, your bodywork, sculpted tank with these wonderful finishing touches. You'd be forgiven to thinking you were on an R1 or an R6. So if you have any illusions that this might be a soft bike, it has some soft edges, but those are a good thing because the rest of the bike is razor sharp. And it just means that this bike can be wielded by pretty much anyone. If you're a new rider looking for your first big bike, experienced riders who, you know, you want to actually exploit all the power of a bike on the road or on a racetrack, and you can do it with the R7. It's a new breed of bike, different from the Aprilia, I think, the RS660, £2,000 cheaper than the RS660. It's a simple, straight-up machine that just forces you to focus on the road. That's really good. So there you go, people, a first ride review of the Yamaha R7. I would have loved to spend more time with this bike, and fingers crossed I might be able to do just that in the future. Tight corner, tight corner. Oh my god. Put the power down. Let's go hunt some corners.